First question will go to Nancy Chaney first. Will the Joseph Street ball fields being built by the school district, partially with city money, be sufficient for the city's playfield needs in the foreseeable future?
Well, in the near term, certainly it'll be a huge improvement. I still think that the West Palouse River Drive site that's owned by the property with plans to develop that into parkland and playfields will be a valuable asset for the more distant future. So I don't want to lose sight of that prospect. I agree with Moscow City Council's decision that we ought not develop that until such time as we can have safe ways for children to get to those locations, bike paths, bus service, sidewalks and that sort of thing. But the ball fields at Joseph Street will be a wonderful resource for all of us in the foreseeable future, and it's a great partnership with Moscow School District.
And that was Nancy Chaney, and now we'll go to Bill Lambert.
Well, the ball fields at Joseph Street is a good start for us here in Moscow because we've been so limited in the ball fields, especially baseball fields, normal-sized diamonds for the kids to play in. And we have limited areas. We share baseball fields with the junior high as well as the high school and the Legion teams. And so it's very tough for the kids out there to have their own ball fields to be able to develop the skills that we need. Over the years, I was a coach in Babe Ruth and the Moscow Baseball Association and part of it for 9 years. And that is something that we have struggled for decades in this town to get enough playing spaces for kids. And so I'm kind of excited to see us at least have something going. Do we need more fields? Absolutely. But this is a great first step to get us where we need to be, Lee. And I'm looking forward to it. There's nothing better than seeing kids out playing ball and having a good time with that. And then that's something we need these kids to get recreation. And the Joseph Street Fields is very close, and it's an easy way for people to get there.
All right, that was Bill Lambert. We've got a call at 892-9200. So, caller, you're on the air. This will go to Bill Lambert first.
Yes, I would like to hear the candidates' ideas concerning what kind of implications do you potentially see for the city of Moscow with Washington State's recent legalization of recreational marijuana use? And a related question, what type of priority level should Moscow Police Department have concerning marijuana enforcement, especially in light of the new Washington laws?
All right, that will go to Bill Lambert first.
Well, I'm not exactly sure how the state of Washington is going to handle it. There's been all kinds of different conversations talked about that. How the Moscow Police Department should handle it is just how they're handling it right now with state law and state code. And so my guess is they'll be implementing it just like they have always had before because the state of Idaho has not legalized marijuana. So we will be following suit just like we always have.
And that was Bill Lambert and now Nancy Chaney.
Well, the implications for the City of Moscow employees is such that we need to pay attention because some of our employees live in the state of Washington and possess commercial driver's licenses. So we're looking at making sure that we have regulations that are clearly defined for our employees who might have legal authority to participate over in their home state of Washington, but certainly that's not okay when they come to work, and especially if there's any blood level of THC. For Moscow Police Department's enforcement and for the general public, if somebody is impaired while driving, whether it's because of alcohol, intoxication, or it's because of some other illicit substance, then we certainly would cite them and handle that accordingly. So, you still can't do those kinds of things legally in Idaho.
And that was Nancy Chaney. The phone number 892-9200. We have the two candidates for mayor in the studios. And a reminder that you can call in twice. That's fine with us. So if you have these two-part questions, you might get through another time, depending on how clogged the phone lines are. So the next question will go to Nancy Chaney first. We have an urban renewal district called Legacy Crossing, located mainly between the University of Idaho and downtown. Is that going to be developed into a successful business residential mix as planned?
Well, I'm very enthusiastic about that project. The Idaho Smart Growth just gave recognition. I think the press release came out on October 24th, citing that as a model of planning and policy for the rest of the state. Mixed-use development is an old idea made new again. Retail, office, residential, entertainment, public gathering spaces all together in a walkable human-scale development, ideally suited to that section of ground between the campus and downtown. I do believe that we're going to see some of our investors coming out from under that dark cloud of recession and beginning to say, we want a piece of that. We'd like to invest in Moscow, Idaho. And urban renewal is one of the few economic development tools localities have in our state. So I'm very bullish on that.
And that was Nancy Chaney and now Bill Lambert.
The legacy crossing that has been something that has been in the works for a number of years now. It was in the works 6 years ago when I was on council. And even though it's something, and it is a great idea and a great concept, but we haven't really done anything yet as far as results have happened. And what we really need to do is have some developers that will come forward that's willing to put the money down in order to do it. One of the tough things we have here in Moscow is the demographics that we have and the cost that it would cost to do those things. I'm very hopeful that it does because I think that the plan actually is a really good plan. But, boy, we need to get the developers. We need to have the money. We need to have some plans and something concrete rather than just talking about it, Lee. We need to be able to make it happen. And I'm hopeful that that will continue and that it will happen because it would sure be good development for our town.
And that was Bill Lambert. Once again, the phone number is 892-9200. We're hoping to have a fast-paced, lively call-in session. So please call in with your questions for the candidates. The next question will go to Bill Lambert first. There's been some developments in the world of solid waste in the city of Moscow in the last year. A 5-year solid waste export contract extension was approved this year with Waste Connections of Idaho. And, of course, we have the new roll carts, which were rolled out, including an a la carte system, in August. So we'll ask Bill Lambert and then Mayor Nancy Chaney what your thoughts are on solid waste issues in the city.
Well, we'll start off, Lee, and talk about it. And Latah Sanitation has done a terrific job with this for over the years. They've been a terrific partner. While I was on council, we worked with them and had long-term contracts, as we still do. The roll carts that you just spoke about, an interesting thing. We've only had them going for a few months now, but I personally like them because what it is, it's quicker and more efficient for the sanitation department to come and pick our garbage up and haul it away. Now, like anything new, you're going to hear some complaints, but I think the real process as we go through the winter months to see how we fare during the winter with these carts, I think that's going to have a pretty interesting implication, especially if we have much snow. We have snow berms out there. It's going to be kind of interesting to see how people can navigate around and how these trash cans work, but I'm optimistic. I personally like it.
Okay, that was Bill Lambert, and now Nancy Chaney.
Well, solid waste management is an exercise in learn as we go. And so, as Bill indicated, the totes are not ideal. They have some issues in that they're located in bike lanes in some cases, or they narrow down the streets, which will become more narrow as we have the snow berms along the way. So we're looking at possible solutions to make that better even for this winter. One of the challenges that we face is decoupling our waste production, if that's a misnomer actually, but the creation of waste from recycling or minimizing our consumption to begin with. So if we can have some incentives to give us those cues, so it's not just out of sight, out of mind. You can just get a 95-gallon tote and stuff everything in there and load it into a truck and send it off to Boardman, Oregon or something and not think twice about it. So making sure that people know that the products we use have consequences in terms of landfill expansion.
And that was Mayor Nancy Chaney. The phone number, once again, 892-9200. We've had one call about recreational cannabis so far. Let's get some calls on a variety of issues here at the radio station. 892-9200, the two candidates for mayor. This one will go to Nancy Chaney first, and it sort of is aimed, I guess, in your direction. One of the city council candidates said said during the April 1st meeting, when the ordinance banning discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity passed, that Mayor Chaney called for a vote at some point, thus preventing the possibility of the issue being discussed publicly at the city council level before it was voted on. How do you assess the situation at that April 1st meeting?
It was a parliamentary maneuver on the part of two of our city council members that would cut off any debate and actually precluded the presentation even by city staff. It was unfortunate. I tried to prevail, and anyone who watches or listens to the tape of that or the recording of that session would understand that it was my strongest wish and most concerted effort to allow input on both sides of that issue. It was highly emotional. It mattered. The outcome mattered a lot to a lot of people in our community, and whatever side of the issue you were on, I think it mattered enough that your voice ought to have been heard. I was pleased with the outcome of that. It was a unanimously supported motion by the City Council, 6-0, to pass that non-discrimination ordinance, and I'm glad of that outcome.
And that was Nancy Chaney. And now, Bill Lambert, your assessment of that situation at that meeting.
Well, there was quite a discussion over a number of weeks and months with the non-discrimination laws and rules that we wanted to put in place here in Moscow. And when Nancy called for the vote, and the council followed up with it and voted, and they did, in fact, vote unanimously on it, I think a lot of discussion had already taken place, and it was a done deal. It was 6-0, and it's very much on our books, and I think that's the end of the story on it, Lee.
Okay, KRFP Moscow. The phone number is 892-9200. The next question will go to Bill Lambert first. I guess not the end of the story on that. There are calls around the state for the legislature to ban local anti-discrimination ordinances, such as the one passed in the city of Moscow and also Sandpoint, Idaho Falls, and a number of other cities. What are your thoughts on that possible state ban on those?
Well, we'll have to follow suit with whatever the state decides to do in its own right. But, we've got that in place now. And as far as I'm concerned, it should stay in place, Lee. Okay,
that was Bill Lambert, and now Nancy Chaney.
Well, if that were the effort, I think we don't have to take it lying down. I think one of the roles of local government is to stand up for its citizens. And if there's a local sentiment that there ought to be a rule against non-discrimination, a law against discriminating against people based on gender identity and expression, then we ought to stand up for that to our own state legislature and explain why trying to do away with that would be unwise and unfair and unethical.
KRFP Moscow, and that was Mayor Nancy Chaney. We have Nancy Chaney and her opponent Bill Lambert in this city election here. The phone number is 892-9200. If you have any questions for the candidates for mayor of Moscow, we'll be going till 7:30 tonight. How is the signal out there? We're using a temporary transmitter as we move up to full power on Paradise Ridge in the next couple days, but I assume everything's working right. And the next question will go to Nancy Chaney first.